But to answer your question, I don't know. I'm just another actor. I like actors. I like being on a set. So mix it up. And the younger, the better.
Come to me. Come to me. Hear my call. Come to me.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Great.
Thank you.
It's great to see you. I wanted to start by asking you, Robert, this is the fourth movie that you set in a somewhat distant past, and it is also not your first horror movie. And part of what makes your movie scary, I think, has a bit to do with the circumstance in which the story occurs. Is the past frightening, or why are you so drawn to it in your movies?
I mean, I think even if I made a movie that wasn't a horror movie, which I have, I would probably go to the past. I like the research of it. I like understanding who we are and where we're going by where we came from. I couldn't exactly explain why, but it's just what I love. And I also I think to make a contemporary movie, I would be bored because I can't do all the little things that I like to do and build all the stuff. But I think when you're dealing with mermaids and witches and vampires and things, it's easier to make them credible in a period where people actually believed that they existed. So I think it's easier for them to be grounded and scary if the convention is to make a horror movie.
I might also add that you're freer to imagine a different psychology, a different way of being. Mm-hmm. With a contemporary film, you're always matching your experience to it, and sometimes there's a judgment or a push and pull with a kind of naturalism. And you're free of that because we don't really know exactly what happened in another time. We only have some research and our imaginations to tell that story. So it's very rich material.
I wanted to start by asking Lilly Rose, haven't seen so many references of what a demonic possession looks like in a movie. How can you draw one for your character and make it noticeable without falling into a caricature?
Well, I think that, the physical aspect of this character was always going to be so important, and I think that that's something that Rob has always known, and like everything in this film and in his films was going to pay, a lot of attention to. He pays a lot of attention to detail, and that's why I think all of his films feel so real and feel so immersive and feel so just, completely true to whatever time period he's portraying. And so the physical aspect was no different. He, I think had really nourished in his head already an idea of what he wanted it to feel like, and then we had an incredible movement coach who I worked with to help me map out all of the different kind of physical moments in the film and make sure they had an arc and a story to each of them, each of these kind of physical moments.
Professor, my dreams grow darker. Does evil come from within us or from beyond?
I wanted to start by asking both of you, world building in a movie like this is crucial, right? The set is extremely detailed, but the way the characters interact with it also enhances the experience of being in the past. How did you guys interact with the set? Is it more of an obstacle or more of an aid to your work?
I guess it's an interesting question, but I think because the set was so brilliantly detailed, the production designer and Robert went to town on like, everything was available for you. So they created a world. So instead of being like, it allows us as actors to not have to use our imagination too much. We just have to be in it. And we're already, once we're in our costumes and the way you walk with the hat and the stuff. And Robert was all about stripping away, like the less we do, the better. Like just simply saying the line, which became quite weirdly quite difficult just because you're used to...
You don't have all your crutches
you don't
of expression
have all,
and
So it was kind of interesting. But at the same time, there would be also things where you could interact with the set, where like you'd open a desk drawer and it had handwritten letters from our characters to one another. So it was wild that was available to you.
So thought out, and like those letters wouldn't even be part of the scene, but it was the fact that you knew they were there, and I think that's a really good way of thinking about and describing the way that Rob works. It's like the detail is always present and active, even if you're not using it or it doesn't enter into the scene. The knowledge that is there, the way the curtains hang and the detail in every single part of the set and the costumes makes so much difference. I think especially if it's a period piece, because we don't know what it was like to live in that
Right, exactly.
kind of time.
And Willem, your character in this movie, Albin, is the person who is trusted with the task of, let's say, fixing Ellen. He's some sort of a guide for the character in that sense. And your role in the set, I mean, you work with a lot of young actors, a lot of brilliant young actors that I can imagine maybe saw you as some kind of professional guide. I was wondering if you could tell me something about the relation between your character in the movie and your role in the set, with the characters and with the actors.
I don't know. All I can say is when I'm on a set, I like to be on a set. I like to watch what people do. I like young actors because they're turned on. They aren't comparing their experience now to a better time. They think they're it now. It's going. I certainly loved working with Lilly Rose Depp. I think she really was great in the part, and I have a couple of scenes where I'm kind of not really guiding her, but I'm with her during her going through some difficult things. So that was a great pleasure. And there's a beautiful scene where I recognize what her role is in this whole story that touched me even as I was doing it. But to answer your question, I don't know. I'm just another actor. I like actors. I like being on a set. So mix it up. And the younger, the better.
And Nicholas, your character enters the world of the unknown and the supernatural in this movie. He's kind of like the audience's point of view, discovering the face of death for the first time. However, some of the scariest elements of the movie come from what feels more real, more grounded in actual reality. For you, what do you think is the scariest thing about Nosferatu, the movie?
Oh, the scariest thing about it, I think, is you've hit the nail on the head with that, is how authentic and real it feels. I think we were discussing how watching the film, it feels like a classic piece of cinema that you've unearthed from like a different time period almost. Mm-hmm. And that's the magic of it, going back to how Rob is so detailed in terms of how he crafts his movies, the language he puts in the script. Everything feels so authentic that it feels real, and that's the most scary thing for me. Watching anything or being involved with anything is when it feels real, like it could have existed or has existed. Yeah. And I think that's the thing with Bill's character and what your character's experiencing as well. What Lily was talking about, this kind of element of the evil within and the evil in the world, and that's kind of an interesting question as well as an audience member to ask yourself and a viewpoint to get into. So all of those things I think make it feel terrifying to me.
I think also piggybacking off of what you said, I so agree with all of that, and I think also it's the fact that not only does it feel so real, but it feels like it could happen, but it's like inescapable. It feels like a real nightmare come to life, because it's like he is kind of always there. You feel his presence all the time, even when he's not in the scenes. You feel he's looming over every moment in the movie, even when he's not there, and so it feels literally like a real nightmare come to life.
And there's things like the sigil and all these things.
Yeah.
There's occasionally moments where I'm like, are we playing with things that, in a supernatural world, where I was like, should we be
calling any of this into reality?
He is coming.
He is coming.
This movie is it's a big movie in two ways. For one thing, it's a movie that Robert Eggers wanted to make for a very long time, and for another thing, it's a remake / adaptation of a movie that the world saw over 100 years ago for the first time, with a couple of shifts and changes to that original story. For you guys, do you feel any kind of special responsibility with the audience or with your director being part of the cast of this movie and with the history that it entails?
Yeah, there's always that responsibility when you're yeah, and a bit of pressure when you're telling a story that people are very fond of and have a connection to. But I think because it's Robert's version, I just think that it's going to be so singular, and it's going to be absolutely magical because of, you know, the way that his films always are. And I think I felt more of a responsibility to doing a good job for Rob because I'm so admiring of his work, and he has such a particular style. Yeah, I think he's going to do real fans of this story really proud. I think they're going to love it.
What do you think you can and cannot mess with when taking on a classic?
You know, that's a great question, but it's really difficult to say. I think you just have to kind of use your judgment. You know, I wish I had a better answer than that, but that's all I can say is you just have to use your judgment.
That's as good an answer as I was gonna get, I think.
Sure. Okay.
Guys, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for this interview, and congratulations on Nosferatu. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
He is coming to us.
He's coming.
Who is coming to you, my child? We are here encountering the vampire.